Howdy folks, it's Angelo Hunting Gear Guy. This is the Girsan MC312, 312, whatever, MC312. It's a semi-automatic inertia tube-fed shotgun from Turkey. Pretty inexpensive. This one in particular is empty, so let me take a closer look. Now first, right at the back, we've got this kind of asymmetric butt pad on it. It is rock hard, so you're not really getting much absorption out of that. There is a kind of replacement for these, but it would be nice if these came with a proper, I don't know, kind of squishy butt pad would be nice. Not so much. These are inexpensive shotguns, so you take what you can get. We've got steel sling swivel studs on it. When it comes to the grip, it's got kind of like checkering in one direction only, so you're going to slip this way, but it's got a bit of it. Got quite of a rounded pistol grip on it right there. The safety is a bit catchy. There it is, red is dead, and there it is on safe. So that's our safety. Our other controls are a bolt hold open and shell release, and the bolt release right there. So if the bolt is forward, we can press that and we can lock it to the rear. And it'll also lock to the rear on the last shot. So if our last shot is empty, we will lock to the rear. Now while we're here, why don't we try that trigger out and see what kind of weight we're going to get out of it. I am pulling directly back on it. Nice and slowly. I felt it just a little bit of a creep there. And just short of 7 pounds, which is pretty standard for what I've gotten out of this thing. Now these trigger packs are partly compatible with the Benelli M2, so that is something that you could either swap the trigger pack out or spruce it up with some of the springs from the Benelli M2 trigger packs, like the Terran Tactical and that kind of thing, to juice it up a bit. Going to the forend, you can see it's ribbed for your pleasure. A little bit of an angle on it, and it is fairly slim, and that's because there's no spring here. Instead, the spring's in the back in the rear stock here, instead of around the tube in the front here, which is something that some shotguns do to get a slimmer forend. It is a little bit more costly. I like to see it because it's just a little bit nice. All along the top there, we've got a ribbed, knurled top of the barrel rib here. We do have a nice barrel rib that goes all the way down. Makes it very easy to sight down the gun. And at the rear, we also have this little, kind of like a valley, where you kind of sight down that gutter there a little bit. At the front, we've got a fiber optic sight, and then we have chokes. This thing actually comes with 5 of them. And they're in this case, and pardon me for it took me so long to find these, because actually all of these Turkish shotguns have the same chokes in the same cases, and I've got a whole bunch of these things. They're the Benelli mobile choke, and you can see them there. You can see that one's got a little bit of a rust on it. I won't hold it too much against them because this is a pretty cheap shotgun, and we've got a lot of chokes here. Incidentally, you can go off of the stripes inside the choke there to see what number it is. So something like, what is this, 5? That's 5, so that's cylinder, whereas 4 would be improved cylinder, 3 would be modified, and so on and so forth. 1 would be your full choke, which is the one that's all nasty looking on this one. We also have a very cheap choke wrench here. It's cheap, but it'll do the job. Now, somewhere in my house is the plug that goes down in there so that it only holds 2 in the tube. Normally it'll hold 5 in the tube and 1 in the chamber, but it does go down when you put the plug in there. I don't have mine because it's, I don't know, it's somewhere around here. So now that we've taken a closer look at this thing, why don't we take it to the range?
Expected.
As you can see there, it ran fine. I tried both 1 1/8 and 1 ounce loads, and it was running just great. Now, off the start, when I first got it, the 1 ounce loads weren't running very reliably in it. After a little bit of wearing in, the 1 ounce loads are running fine, and of course, the 1 ounce and 1/8 loads are running fine as well. Now, because this is an inertial shotgun, the more recoil the shell generates, the more oomph it's going to put into the mechanism. And I'll show you why in just a minute. Why don't we take this thing apart for cleaning? So to clean your Girsan MC312, you're gonna have to do a couple things. First thing you're gonna wanna do is make sure that it's empty. So check your chamber, check your tube. I see both are empty, so we're good to disassemble this shotgun. Next, we're gonna remove our magazine tube cap. Once that's off, we should be able to just pull our barrel and our forend off all together. Now, one great thing about this shotgun is that the locking lugs are very easy to access. They're right there. So you just need to scrub those out every once in a while. Practically never. I mean, these inertial shotguns are very clean shooting. They don't use gas in the system like a gas-fired shotgun will, so they're going to be more reliable longer term. Next, we're going to get that bolt forward. That bolt handle there, all we need to do is just kind of pinch that and pull it out. It's just got a little detent kind of holding that thing on there. Put that off to the side. Then we can pull our bolt assembly out. See this little tail here? That actually engages with a spring and a plunger kind of in the back of the stock here. So that's where this thing gets its power. It pushes back on that spring to give itself more juice. Now, if you were to clean your shotgun, you shouldn't have to do too much inside the receiver. It should be fairly clean. So just a quick wipe down is all you really should need. If you want to, you can remove this side pin here to pull the trigger group out. I'm just going to use this Allen key just to knock that pin out. Oh, that came out really easily. Note that it will only come out one way. One side's bigger than the other. The bigger side has to come out. It won't go the other way. So it'll only go left to right out of there. And then you can pull out your trigger group if you so desire. Once that pin's out, you can take out your trigger group. I find it easier to just press this, this release here a little bit and then pull it kind of up and then out to get it out. It'll be easier to access the inside of your shotgun here for cleaning, but again, you shouldn't need to clean it too much. Same goes for the trigger group. You shouldn't need to do a lot of cleaning on it. I'll put some details in my article about what parts can interchange with the Benelli M2, at least from my research. Because you could spruce this thing up if you wanted to. Now, I'm not actually going to disassemble the bolt because it uses some roll pins. It's kind of a pain in the ass, just to be honest. But I did want to show you how an inertial action works. So once this thing's in the gun and it's loaded, it's kind of like rotated in place, that bolt there. Now, this bolt is not actually connected to this bolt assembly here. It's just like, it's loose in there, right? And that's not actually at the back. There's still that spring there that's at the back. It's quite a big, thick spring. But when the gun recoils, this is connected to the barrel, so that's going to move. This doesn't want to move because it's got weight. It's got some inertia. So it's going to kick it in there, and that is going to give that spring just a little bit of compression. And then when the gun comes back, it's going to want to keep moving. That spring's going to kick this bolt, this back part back here, unlocking the bolt and then pulling the whole thing back. And that actually gives enough energy to cycle the action, therefore inertial action. Now to put this beast back together, we're going to take that trigger group. It does fit in a notch at the back here, and that notch is right there. So we need to make sure that that notch is in the right spot. Then we're going to press this bolt release button. By the way, if you need to take that out, there's a roll pin there, but we're not going to do that. Maybe if you're going to replace this this bolt release with like a bigger button, but press that in, and then that should allow you to put this trigger group in just a little bit further. Look through the hole until you see that it's lined up. Take your trigger pin there, pop it through. That should just slap into the side there. And my trigger group's in. Grab your bolt assembly, get it through there. One of the things I want to do is just kind of get in there. There we go. I want to take my charging handle. I want to just press this down a little bit and just kind of get it in there. If I can press it down like this, that means that that tail is in that receiver detent and it's on the spring. If not, you might just have to pick it up and wiggle it around until you get it in the right spot. But if you're 100% vertical, it should just be easy. Next, if you want to make it really easy, just get your barrel and forend on. Just lock it open. So press that button there. There we go. Got it. Lock it to the rear, and then take the whole shebang and just pop it in there. Just gently wiggling until you're in place. You might find that these bottom areas here, it might need to be squeezed to get into the receiver and get you a nice flush fit. Finally, pop on the magazine tube cap. To function test, we're going to test our bolt release, test our bolt hold open. Always make sure that we're empty. Test our safety, so my safety's on right now. Nothing for the trigger, and it will fire. One thing to note, you can't ease this thing down. You can't just like slowly let that bolt forward. It won't rotate. You need to let it slam onto the shell so that that bolt has a chance to rotate and lock into position. And just a couple of other notes. While you're loading, I've just got some dummies here. While you're loading, here, let's get it so I can load it. While you're loading, you need to make sure it clicks in, not only past the lifter, but onto that latch in there. Otherwise, if you just push it in until that lifter clears your thumb, you're gonna end up having it shot down there onto the lifter, which that's no problem. It'll still shoot that. The next time you fire, it's just gonna load that shell and it'll be fine. But you might not have filled your tube. So just one thing to note, you need to make sure you push them all the way in there until they click. So why are these shotguns so cheap? Well, Turkey's economy is garbage, and therefore their currency keeps dropping in value, and they sell otherwise like pretty. It's like, so some of the Turkish guns are good, some of them are pretty shit. This one's all right. I think this shotgun's all right. Like some of the bits on it, like the plastic on it is kind of cheap. You can tell like the forend and all that kind of stuff is molded for value priced. But that's okay. I think that's okay. I think that it's okay if a shotgun or if a manufacturer makes value price stuff and sells it for value price. And I think that's what this 312 definitely gets you. I mean, really, there's a minimum threshold to reliability. A semi-auto shotgun's a hard thing to make. There's moving parts. There's a lot of variability between the shell sizes, between the power. It can be really hard to make something that is inexpensive and reliable and cheap, like very difficult. In the past, for 3-gun, for example, the #1 value-priced one that people recommended was the Stoeger M3K. This one is also very good, also cheaper. Definitely cheaper. The M3K is here in Canada right around $750. This guy goes for $450, somewhere around there. So it's a pretty inexpensive shotgun. It does take the Benelli Supernova extension tube. So if you want to run a +1 or if you're in the States, run like a lot more, that's possible. You would also need to auger out this loading port here to make it a little bit more shallow. And then you probably want to weld the lifter as well, because it is this forkiness of it. If you're loading fairly rapidly, you might catch your fingers in there. So you probably have to do that kind of work. You may want to do some spring work to the trigger, or maybe just leave it as is. The weight of the trigger doesn't really matter in 3-gun all that much. It's more how fast can you keep it fed kind of a thing. All in all, though, like, pretty good value for the money for what you would pay for one of these things. You're getting a lot of shotgun. You're getting a lot of pretty reliable shotgun. They do come in 3-inch or 3.5-inch. So if you want to go shoot some ducks or geese or something like that, maybe the 3.5-inch would be more the speed you'd want to go. But the 3 inches do fine as well. The fact that they come with 5 chokes is really nice. The fact they come with, just a general reliability is good. If you are going to go shoot some ducks or geese, you're going to need a slip-on pad or replace this thing altogether. In my article, I'll put whatever I found in terms of like what butt pad to put on here. A cheap slip-on would be the minimum I'd go for, though, because this thing's hard as a rock. If you're going to go goose hunting and fire like big 3.5-inch shells, this thing's going to murder after a while. So definitely get the softer butt pad. Consider it for 3-gun. Otherwise, cool shotgun. Thanks for watching.